Stardust Chapter 14, Part 2. The lighting in the habitat was on its lowest setting, but Matt could easily make out Twilight's form huddled onto the bed, wrapped in blankets and shaking slightly. The gentle sounds of sobbing could be heard, and Matt hesitated. The last time she was like this was after Valen's initial testing, and only Shen could get through to her, but he's not here, and I am. So, well, Twilight, are you okay? Matt half expected no response at all or commands to leave her alone as before, but when the response came, it surprised him. No, no, I'm not. A long moment of silence passed before Matt made his way over to the bed and sat at its foot while Twilight scooted over to the head of the bed, while wrapping herself up in the blankets and giving her the appearance of a caterpillar. Do you want to talk about it? He asked gently. It was like before, Twilight answered hesitantly. Those legs and it coming towards me. Ah, I get it now. Matt thought as the pieces came together. Damn spider gave her flashbacks with that chrysalid. I understand, Twilight. You've been through some really scary things, and it takes time for those memories to fade. I don't have any special trick for making those memories go away besides time. My best recommendation would be just take a nap, and maybe we could talk about it later tonight, if you're up for it. Twilight's head emerged from the covers and turned to face Matt, and he had to resist the impulse to look away. Her eyes were wide and filled with tears and guilt, and she nearly screamed. That won't make it feel better! That won't make it better! When I first found myself on Earth, I panicked. I... The next word seemed to catch her in her throat, but as soon as it was free, the flood opened. I killed someone, and I almost did it again to that little spider. Princess Celestia has never had to kill anyone before, but I have. I'm a murderer, a monster, and time won't make it go away. With those last words, Twilight fell silent, but she continued to stare at Matt as though she was expecting him to condemn her. Matt couldn't hold her gaze any longer, and he looked away. Twilight began to sob silently as the moment stretched on for several minutes. Twilight, I don't think I ever told you this, but I was a soldier in my country's army before I came to work here. I signed up because of family tradition, all that stuff, and my dad was in the army, and his dad was, and, so on like that. Matt paused to check up on Twilight. The occasional shake of her shoulders passed through her, but her eyes were once again on him. Signed up right out of high school and went through boot like it was nothing. Was high on all the puffed up talk the recruiters gave me. Serve your country. Dad's approval didn't really hurt either. He was pleased as punch when I made that decision. The moment we got out of boot, we were shipped out to the desert to help one of our allies and get their crap in order. There was some sort of resume changing where the old guard didn't really take kindly to being replaced and was doing its best to make everyone's life a living hell because of it. They even got some religious leader to declare the new government as not approved by their god and instigated a revolt. Army got sent in and trying to capture the troublemakers so that peace could be restored. Matt leaned forward and dropped his elbows onto his knees, then clasped his hands before his face dredged up more of the story. So, me and my buddies got thrown into this mess in the desert. Each and every one of us is expecting to be big damn heroes and save the day for this little corner of the world. We get a message from one of the ringleaders of the rebellion that he's holed up in this little town in the heart of the rebel lines, so we head into the town quietly to try and get this guy before he can raise up an alarm and escape. No muss, no fuss. I was in the tail position covering up our rear so no one could sneak up on us, and when I saw someone come out of one of the buildings behind us with a weapon, Matt paused to take in a deep breath and try to swallow the lump that had made its way into the back of his throat. It was a kid, maybe 12 or 13 years old, no older than my sister back home, really skinny and underfed too, but carrying a gun that could have killed me or any of my friends. I stayed in cover and prayed that he would just turn back and just go away into the house and live another day. But that stupid kid saw us and raised his gun. And I shot him. Triple tap, center mass, and he was dead before he hit the ground. A gasp from Twilight gave Matt a moment of pause as he closed his eyes. I never wanted to kill that kid. I never did, but he had been told the devil was coming to town and it was his duty to defend it. Once he saw us, someone was gonna die. It could have been me. It could have been my friends. Or I could choose for it to be him. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't remember that scared look in that kid's eyes or how close he came to shooting us. I regret that he had to be shot. No kid should die that young, but... Matt took another long breath and looked at Twilight and tried to force a comforting smile. Had I not shot him, I would be dead. My friends would be dead. And that's the only reason why I shot him. I did it to defend myself and others. When we found you, Twilight, you were defending yourself from imminent death. And that thing you killed would have killed more people afterwards. I know, it's gonna be hard, but every time you feel guilty about what you've done, I want you to try and remember all the lives you've saved because of it. Starting with your life. Matt's brotherly instincts took over, one hand reaching over to pat Twilight's shoulders, and Twilight's reaction was unexpected. She half launched and half stumbled out of her blankets and latched onto the soldier in a hug, and began sobbing again while mumbling apologies over and over again into his chest. Ah, shit, what do I do? What do I do? Matt's mind screamed at him as he suppressed a manly yelp as well as the urge to flail at the unexpected contact. Stardust policy regarding physical contact with Twilight had been strict. None, unless invited by Twilight, and even then, only if you were comfortable with it. He tried to scoot her out of her grasp, but she clung all the tighter to him. I can't just push her away, or she'll have another breakdown. What do I do? With escape no longer an option, he hesitantly patted her on the shoulders, and just then the door to the habitat opened. I finally got that little son of a... Lana started, and then she waved a small glass jar with a spider in it. The female soldier froze, though as she's fully comprehending the scene before her, a grin slowly appearing and extending from ear to ear before she finally spoke. Pardon the interruption, but please continue. With that, she turned and walked out of the habitat. 10:30 a.m., April 29th, 2015. B3F corridor. You know, it's so sweet how you two ended up together. You tased her, kept her prisoner with a secret military organization, then got to know each other better. It's the classic love story, Lana said whimsically as she followed Matt down the corridor. Matt had the resisting urge to just face palm. 11:07 a.m., April 29th, 2015. Mess hall. You should really see this as a positive endorsement of your character, Matt, Lana continued, despite the mashed potatoes' desperate attempts to keep coherent speech from leaving her mouth. All the guys out there say they care about a woman's mind, but how often do they actually mean it? It's all about the body in the end, but not for you, huh? Matt ignored her as best as he could and finished his meal. 12:45 p.m., April 29th, 2015. Rec room. Or perhaps maybe you're not a good guy after all. Maybe you no longer consider us mundane women a challenge to woo anymore? Lana's grin became impish. You see a girl who's one of a kind and you just have to sweep her off her feet? Am I right? Matt snapped the book he had been reading shut and left the room with Lana hot on his heels. 1:30 p.m., April 29th, 2015. Firing range. You know, I bet we could arrange some more private time for the two of you. Valen might disapprove because she isn't getting any, but I'm sure the others wouldn't mind as long as you tell them it's for science. Besides, a girl's got needs and she needs satisfying. Lana's grin had grown to Cheshire cat levels as she loaded bullets into her pistol clip. Say, how do you think she likes it? I bet... Any further words she might have said were drowned out as Matt raised his pistol with an almost indecent haste and fired. Bam, bam. Likes it when you... Bam, bam. With your hands down. Bam, 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 bam. Though you might need to tape something on the door. There's no doorknob, so socks are out. 1:50 p.m., April 29th, 2015. PT lockers. Matt stopped in front of the men's locker room and turned to glare at Lana, who was still following him with her Cheshire cat grin. I've got physical therapy and a checkup with the doctors to make sure that I'm 100%. If you follow me in there, I swear to God, I will drop you. Lana let out a theatrical, exaggerated sigh before shrugging. Fine. Enjoy your brief respite. With those parting words, she headed back down the hallway. The moment the door closed behind him, Matt let out a sigh of relief. The silence of the locker room was immediately having a positive effect on his sanity as he headed towards his locker. One hand pulled the door open while the other began to strip off his shirt, but he stopped as he caught sight of what was pinned to the inside door of the locker. A 3-sheet picture of Twilight laying on her bed and looking back at the picture taker was hanging on the door in pin-up style, complete with suggestive-looking eyes captured no doubt with a high-speed camera mid-blink. Written down at the bottom in black ink were the words, "For my strapping stallion, Twilight Sparkle." Jenkins! Matt screamed as he slammed the locker door shut and stormed out of the locker room. 1:52 p.m. April 29th, 2015. Rec room. Oh, hey, that was quick. Lana grinned at Matt as she saw him enter the rec room. Did they not give you the green light? Lana gasped dramatically before adding, Don't tell me that your wound has made you impotent. Why, that would be just a crushing... Jenkins, what the hell do you think you're doing? Matt ground out as quietly as he could. Despite his best efforts to keep the conversation private, the other off-duty soldiers in the room were paying more than a little attention to the pair, especially after Lana spoke. Follow me now. Lana's further jokes were cut off as she followed Matt into the relatively empty corridor. Jesus, man, what's the deal? Did they seriously say that you were You know what the deal is. Now, I can stomach your little pranks and harassment, but putting pictures of highly classified material in the locker room as part of your pranks, that's too much. What if others had been in the room when I had opened that door? Lana opened her mouth to say something, but quickly shut it to restrain whatever response she was generating. And you know why Twilight reacted the way she did? Did you even care to consider it? Because spiders are creepy as hell, especially when one jumps on your face? That spider gave her a flashback of that chrysalid that nearly killed her during her first 5 minutes on Earth, and she was breaking down because she nearly killed the spider because of it, Matt hissed quickly. Think about it, you lackwit. Everything where she's from talks and has a family, and when she killed that chrysalid, she thought that she was murdering someone's father or brother or son. Is ridiculous to you and me, but she believed she did something completely unforgivable. Do you remember that feeling? Your first kill? Or are you actually a sociopath? Honestly, your behavior just makes me wonder. Lana's expression sobered as Matt continued his quiet rant, and she looked away and replied quietly, I'd rather not talk about it. Oh, hell no. You don't get to pull any of that crap. It was with a shotgun and I was 12. He was trying to kill my mom. Oh. Hell. Lana's equally quiet reply doused the anger Matt was feeling instantly. I know I'm gonna regret asking, but... Where was your dad? Lana smiled again, but there was none of the joy or mischief usually found in it as she replied, Who do you think I was shooting at? A long moment passed between the two, of the conversation atrophied and died, but Lana rallied first. Okay, you win. I'll stop bugging you about this for now. Deal? Deal. Matt agreed and turned back towards the locker rooms. He had almost rounded the corner before Jenkins got the last shot in. Our truce doesn't mean I can't tease her about it, though. 8:32 p.m. April 29th, 2015. Stardust Labs. Twilight had taken Matt's advice and slept for a while after he had left. Admitting to what she had done combined with Matt's own admissions had left her drained and sleep claimed her quickly. Despite the content of their conversation, Twilight was able to sleep soundly and without the nightmares that plagued her. And just as Matt predicted, she woke up feeling much better. The lingering guilt she had been feeling about the event was still present, but she forced herself to go over the events again in her head and address what had happened. That thing killed 3 humans, one of which was a child. Then it tried to kill me. I was defending myself, but I killed it. An eye for an eye punishment went out at the end of Solaria's reign, but because it killed doesn't mean it deserved to be killed. But it would have kept killing unless it was stopped. People's lives were saved. No! Twilight shook her head vigorously as she clamped down on that line of thought. Coming up with good reasons to kill opens up opportunities for bad reasons to kill. Death can never be justified. I hope it can be forgiven. Thoughts of Celestia or even Fluttershy's reactions came to mind, and she immediately cringed at that. Wordlessly, she rose and walked over to the desk and brought a sheet of paper and pen to bear. Even if I can never send it, I need to write a letter explaining everything that happened. Maybe somehow Celestia will receive it and forgive me. Before the pen could come in contact with the paper, the door to her habitat opened to reveal Charles and Joel. Good evening, Twilight. I hope we haven't interrupted you. Oh, no interruption. What's up? It's a bit late for your usual visits, I think, Twilight asked as she turned to face the two men after setting the pen down on the paper. It's a bit late, but there's an experiment that we would like you to help with, Joel explained. It's actually for a line of research that we had no luck with in the past, but with your help, I'm confident we can make a breakthrough on this. So, are you up for it? I'll do my best. Twilight nodded and hopped off of her chair to follow the two men out.
So what will I be helping with?
She asked after a silent moment of hesitation while both men exited the lab and motioned for her to follow. To her surprise, both Matt and Lana were waiting outside, also, except they now wore what appeared to be heavy vests and hats combined with a belt filled with little gadgets. Matt strode forward to the head of their little group while Lana stayed back in the tail position in a similar manner as their visit to the cavern several days earlier. It's something only you can help us with, Twilight. I'm afraid I can't elaborate any further until we get to our destination. I'm sorry. Joel apologized. I can tell you that the ability we need your help with is one you've used several times in the past, and if this does pan out, that it might save lives in the long run. The possibility of saving lives caught Twilight's attention immediately, and she latched onto it.
Oh, okay. If it helps, then I'm happy to do anything that I can. I just wish that he would tell me what I'll be doing.
Any further speculation was interrupted by Charles leaning down and whispering. Twilight, I've also been meaning to apologize about what happened to you in the lab. The engineers were a little lax when they were checking what they picked up. Trust me, it won't happen again.
Oh, thank you, Charles, but you don't need to apologize. I just overreacted a little bit.
The unicorn grinned sheepishly and looked up to the engineer.
I would greatly appreciate no further surprises like that, though. I don't think my heart can take it.
Speaking of which, I also wanted to apologize for not being there to help after that incident. I understand Matt did a good job in helping smooth things over?
Yeah, he did. We talked about some things that have been bothering me, and then I hugged him. Nothing happened. Nope, nothing at all.
Just as Twilight started to feel relaxed and recovered from the day's events, she realized that what she had done to Matt, the human who thought she was cute.
What's that, Twilight? I didn't quite catch that last part. Care to repeat it?
Lana heckled from behind, and Twilight whipped around with a glare and a glowing horn. Anything else the female soldier might have said could no longer be heard. Her mouth moved, but no sound came forth, a fact that she noticed very quickly. Lana began to stomp her feet and clap her hands, and no further sound could be heard. Wait, did you just mute Lana? Matt asked from the head of the formation as he leaned over her shoulder.
Well, I suppose I did. It's a sound dampening spell. No sound that originates from within the vicinity of the spell can be heard outside of it.
Twilight explained quickly. And she can hear us?
She should.
You hear that, Lana? I've finally found a way to shut you up. Lana's response naturally was the gesture that Twilight was becoming all too familiar with. You're amazing, Twilight. Has anyone ever told you that recently?
Not recently.
Twilight admitted as she looked to the side and tried to force her face to not get so red. The realization that she finally was failing badly caused her to divert her attention by changing the subject.
What does that gesture mean, the one that Lana keeps using?
This time it was Matt's turn to look sheepish. It means I'm extremely displeased with you or your behavior. He shrugged after signaling the group to cross the next intersection. It's something that is subject to interpretation. Twilight was just to ask just what kind of interpretations when they approached the door.
This looks familiar, but all these doors and hallways look familiar.
The group stopped by the door, and Charles turned to Twilight with a comforting smile. The experiment will be in the next room. We'll all be in there with you, but if you do feel uneasy or just want to quit, let one of us know, and we'll come back to your room.
Oh, okay.
Twilight agreed, and her anxiety increased just a bit as Joel turned and pressed a button on the door to open it. The room beyond had several rows of desks, but the centerpiece of the room was a giant illuminated section on the far side of the room, with a curved glass divider keeping it separated from the rest.
Like a prison cell.
Twilight sucked in a breath, and she remembered the room where this whole series of events started. Charles was right beside Twilight as he noticed her reaction. You won't be going back in the cell, Twilight, I guarantee it. There's just something we need your help with inside of the room, though, and we'll be with you the whole way. Are you still up for it? Twilight gulped and seriously considered going back, but the expectant looks from both Charles and Joel stopped her. She once again looked into the room and took note of Kim and Valen as well. Kim waved at the group as they loitered at the door, while Valen's expression was rather natural.
I'm alright, I can do this.
I'm very glad to hear it. Let's head on in then. Charles nodded as he rose to lead the group in. The door closed behind him, and Twilight once again looked at the illuminated cell she had woke up in, and she gasped. She had missed him the first time around, but now that she was closer, she could see a human male standing in the center of the cell. It was tall, or at least he looked tall from this distance, and was extremely thin. He was clothed in a blue business suit and a red tie, and wore gold-framed circular lens sunglasses that hid his eyes. As the group approached closer, Twilight couldn't help but revise her opinion. If the human she had seen were average, then the person in the cell was far too thin to be healthy or atomically possible, plus his limbs seemed to have incorrect proportions as well. Lastly, creeping along the neckline of the suit's shirt was what appeared to be scales.
What's he doing in there?
Twilight asked timidly. Twilight, this is one of the invaders that threatens our world. It was created specifically to blend in with other humans and spread fear wherever it goes. Joel started to explain, but caught himself as he heard Twilight speak.
Changeling?
Unicorn gasped as she took a step back.
It's a changeling?
Not quite, at least not in the manner you've described. This one was created specifically to look like us, and it cannot assume any other form. What makes this one unique is that it appears to have the capacity for vocal communication, whereas the other invaders appear to communicate using telepathy or other sorts of methods. Joel explained before drawing in a breath and posing the question. Twilight, can you cast your translation spell on this creature so we can probably try and speak with it? Twilight couldn't help but gulp in apprehension as she eyed the fake human standing in the cell before her. So far, it hadn't even moved from its ramrod straight posture or so much as glanced in any other direction other than straight forward.
Is this what the humans are fighting up against?
She asked herself.
If I can help them speak to it, then maybe all this fighting could end. Yes, I can do this,
Twilight said, more certain than ever that it was the right thing to do. The humans around her stepped aside and she cast her translation magic upon the fake human in the cell. A few moments passed before Joel stepped directly in front of the cell and asked loudly, Can you hear me? Do you understand me now? The fake human slowly reached up and plucked the sunglasses from its face to reveal vertical pupils and yellow reptilian eyes. Those eyes didn't spare a moment's attention on Joel or Charles or any other. Those eyes focused entirely on Twilight. Again, Joel asked the question and again was ignored. Joel's repeated attempts at communications were ignored, so Twilight asked,
Hello?
Die! The moment the first syllable left her mouth, the fake human screamed and shot forward and punched the glass. Its face curled into a snarl and it screamed again. It continued to punch the glass and the bones and its hands snapped with a sickening crunch. The injuries didn't stop it from screaming further threats and mutilating its fists against the glass before Charles shouted, Close the shutters, now! Joel hastily complied and segmented sheets of metal fell into place around the glass cage to hide the fake human from view. The last thing Twilight saw were those reptilian eyes glaring furiously at her before they too disappeared.
Why would he say that? Why would he do that?
Twilight looked at Charles, then Joel, then the others.
Why? Why would anyone say that to anyone else? Why? How could any pony wish for such harm to come to others?
Twilight asked herself, and no answer came from the others. The thought that a being could wish so much harm on others simply for seeing them was too much for her fathom. I don't know, Twilight. I wish I did, but I don't know.